All right, welcome back, guys. We are continuing our review of Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life and Antidote to Chaos. And we're going to be going on to Rule 2. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. This chapter is all about the importance of respecting yourself, treating yourself with respect, doing good things for yourself, right? And I think it's an incredible chapter. He starts off by telling a story about how when it comes to people with pets, on average, people are more likely to get medication and administer medication to their pets, to their dogs and their cats, than to themselves. It's a sad situation, it's a sad reality, and it's a really interesting question. And Jordan's going to spend the majority of the rest of the chapter trying to find an answer to this question. But of course, Jordan doesn't write anything. I wouldn't say he doesn't write anything in a very straightforward way, but his explanations and his searches for answers are stories, they're journeys, right? And it's very interesting. He doesn't just answer this in one page, it's more like 20 pages. And so before he gives us an answer to this, and of course the answer is that these people don't like themselves, they don't love themselves, they don't respect themselves enough, they don't feel worthy enough for this medication. They essentially have given up on themselves, right? But before he reveals that answer that he came across, he talks about the Bible. He talks about the creation story and the story of Adam and Eve. And he talks about how after God created the world, he put Adam and Eve into the Garden of Eden with the tree of the fruit of life, I believe, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And tells them you can eat from all the fruit-bearing trees in the garden that you want, but whatever you do, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And of course, like most of you are probably aware with the Adam and Eve story, Eve is deceived by the snake to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Her eyes are opened and she realizes that she and her partner Adam are naked. And this horrifies her, she's ashamed, and she doesn't want to be alone. So what she does is, of course, she goes and she tells Adam, and she says to him, look, you're naked, and shows him. He looks down and he's like, oh God, I'm naked. And so Adam and Eve, who are never aware of this, and more importantly, not self-conscious, are suddenly self-conscious. Eve was first, didn't want to be alone, and told Adam. So later on in the story, God is, from what Jordan says, going on his walk in the garden later in the afternoon, later in the evening. He's looking for Adam. He calls out to Adam. He says, Adam, where are you? I want to go on because they're going on a evening walk together like they usually do. And Adam doesn't come to God right away. He's actually hiding in a bush. And God finally finds him. Adam jumps out and says, here I am, Lord, but I was hiding from you. I was ashamed of my nakedness. And God says, nakedness? Who told you that you were naked? And he says, Eve did. And Eve tells the story of the snake, how it deceived her. It's an interesting story about self-consciousness in human beings, which is another big theme of the chapter. So it's very interesting. And I think it's a really good retelling of the Adam and Eve story on Jordan's part. I think it's very interesting, an easy way to read the story and to get its central theme. After the biblical story here, he goes on to the last part of the chapter, which, like I said at the beginning of the video, is all about the importance of respecting yourself. And he has a great section here at the end of Rule 2. Let me see if I can find it here. He says here at the end, to treat yourself as if you were someone you're responsible for helping is instead to consider what would be truly good for you. This isn't what you want. It's also not what would make you happy. Every time you give a child something sweet, you're making that child happy, but it doesn't mean you should do nothing for children except feed them candy and make them happy. Happy is by no means synonymous with good. You must get children to brush their teeth. You must put on their snowsuits when they go outside in the cold, even though they might object strenuously. You must help a child become a virtuous, responsible, awake being, capable of full reciprocity, able to take care of himself and others and to thrive while doing so. Why would you think it acceptable to do anything less for yourself? And a little later on, at the very end of the chapter, he says here, you could help direct the world on its careening trajectory, a bit more toward heaven and a bit more away from hell. Once having understood hell, researched it, so to speak, particularly your own individual hell, you could decide against going there or creating that. You could aim elsewhere. You could, in fact, devote your life to this. That would give you a meaning with a capital M. That would justify your miserable existence. That would atone for your sinful nature and replace your shame and self-consciousness with a natural pride and forthright confidence of someone who has learned once again to walk with God in the garden. You could begin by treating yourself as if you were someone you were responsible for helping. So, like I said, Rule 2 is all about the importance of treating yourself with respect. Everything from taking care of the clothes that you wear, taking care of your room, right? Like for me, for example, a good way to respect myself is to keep my room clean. Another good way to respect myself is to concern myself with how I'm presenting myself, right? That's a sign of self-respect, of self-love, right? It's putting the right kind of foods in your body. It's taking yourself to the gym and getting a workout in, and even if you don't like to work out, it's yoga, it's running, it's sports, it's whatever you want to do. It's just going on a walk, hiking, whatever it is. That's another sign of self-respect and self-love. It's taking time to read, and to learn, to attain more knowledge. It's doing all of these things that are good for you. And that's what he's talking about at the end of the chapter. That's what I believe it is. It's a form of self-respect. And even more importantly than that, it's a form of self-love. When we're doing good things for ourselves. And maybe, though Jordan doesn't talk about this in the chapter, maybe by starting to view these things that are good for us as they are, as good things, we can see the challenging things in our lives, the things that we don't necessarily want to do, but we know we should, as good as well, and maybe that will lighten the load. Maybe they won't look as challenging or threatening as we previously thought. So maybe, for example, and a good example is for myself, since I'm a student right now, I can look at the exam that's coming up a week from now, and instead of starting, the study the night before, I can think, well, I really don't want to do this. But what I can do, and what would probably be better for me, is to study 20 minutes today, and then 20 minutes the next day, and 20 minutes the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and spread it out over time. It's not something that I'm going to want to do every day, but studying, and especially taking a little bit of time every day to study, is going to help me out in the long run. And isn't that a form of self-respect? Isn't that a form of self-love? Doing good things for yourself. And once you believe that you're worthy of these good things, once you come to like yourself, you can really appreciate the good things you're doing for yourself. I kind of view them as a cycle, and they keep feeding into each other. If you want to learn to love yourself, you've got to do good things for yourself, because the act of you doing good things for yourself shows you that you must love yourself. You must find yourself worthy of these good things, right? They feed into each other. And then, of course, if you start to feel that way, and hopefully you'll be more likely to continue doing good things for yourself. If we view these things as good, if we start to view studying as good, we start to view doing the laundry now instead of later as good. If we start to view taking a look at the bills on our desk instead of pushing them off until tomorrow or the next week as good, we can see these things as acts of self-respect, as acts of self-love. And I think that's the essence of Rule 2. Treating yourself like someone that you're responsible for helping. You can help yourself across time by doing these good things for yourself. You can learn to respect yourself. You can learn to love yourself.